Okay, so let's look next at adding different types of content into our slides. Within this theme, of course, we've already got some text box where we can add text like so, and the formatting works just like any other word processor. So if I select my text here, I can change the font, I can change the size and the formatting of it in the usual way, including things like text color or highlighting perhaps. I can also insert hyperlinks using this link here. A really good shortcut to remember in general is Command K in order to do that. And one great function about that from the perspective of slides is that you can actually link into the next slide or different slides within your slideshow. So if you want to add the functionality to be able to nip around between different slides, you can do that. And that link could be from text, or it could even be from an image, like a button, for example, if you wanted to have the ability for the user to navigate around the slideshow in a slightly different or non-linear fashion. We can also, of course, change the alignment and the character spacing, or the line spacing, I should say, whether it's a bulleted list, and of course there's different drop downs for different styles for doing that, or indeed numbered lists, and we can change the indentation and so on in the same way that you would with any kind of standard word processor. We can also add a line around our box, text box, change the style if it's going to be dashed, and the line colors, and we can also change the fill color as well. So it might be that we want a light grey box, for example, for our text, or even a gradient perhaps as well in certain situations, and that can just help obviously the design aesthetic of whatever it is that we're working on. If I just quickly randomly add in a bit more text like this, one thing that you can also do to make the slides a bit more dynamic is to animate elements within the page. So it might be that I actually want this text box to appear when I click next, or click on my clicker. So to do that, we're just going to select the thing that we want and come into animate. And from the motion folder then, we can actually choose this transition between different slides. At the moment it's none, so it just clicks from one to the next without any effect at all, but we can also include different kind of effects, like sort of fading, for example. If I start the slideshow off, we can see how that works. We can apply this to all slides, so that I don't have to do it manually for each one. But now if I come into my slideshow, when I click next, you see we're getting that fading effect. So as well as the slide transitions, I can also add object animations. So you can see I've added this one for the text box here, which is going to appear on click. So if I'm in my slideshow here, it's going to load that page, but until I click forward, that text box isn't going to appear. And from this menu, we can choose a number of different things. So we could have it fading in. If we want to see what that looks like without starting the slideshow, we could just hit play. And that will just show us this one slide. So as I click now, it fades in. We can choose how fast it does that. So if I put it slower and hit play again, you can see it's fading in a lot slower, obviously. And we can experiment and play around with all these different styles, zooming in, flying in from the sides, from the bottom and from the top, and so on. And then there's this feature here called by paragraph. So if I have this by paragraph, what it's going to do then, it's going to require a click to load each subsequent section of text as well. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So there's the first one, it's fading in at the speed I've selected, and as I press enter now, each part is fading in, and that can help introduce content onto the slides piece by piece as you're discussing it, without overwhelming the learner with too much information at one time. The same object animations can be applied to any element that we add, whether it's text, an image, a shape, or a line or an arrow or a chart or anything like that as well. So let's go ahead then and look at adding in some different types of content. I'm just going to delete my text box for the moment, and coming to the insert menu, I can come and now insert an image. And so from the sub menu, I can upload one from my computer. I can search the web. There's even GIFs and stickers. I can find a file from Drive or from Google Photos via a URL, or even by a connected camera on my computer. Let's have a look on the web. Let's search for lecture, find an image. Okay, so let's say I like this one. I can just click this and insert it. That will then import it into my slide, and then I can kind of resize it. I can kind of rotate it if I wanted to, and I can otherwise format it. Probably the most useful thing is as I move this around, you'll see I get these red lines, and this is really useful for organizing the content on the screen. So this is going to snap at the moment to the middle of the slide horizontally. I can also, if I find it, where is it now? Somewhere in the middle for vertically, there we go. So that's right in the middle, both horizontally and vertically, but it'll also snap to other elements on the page as well. So on the left here, I'm getting it aligned to the left-hand side of this text box. So this can be a really useful way of just making sure that everything is neatly aligned on the page. Let's look at some of the formatting options for images. If I click Format Options at the top here, this will open up the formatting options for whatever object I've got selected, whether it's an image or a piece of text, for example. We can change the size and the rotation if we want to, and kind of rotate it around as we've just seen. This is effectively just doing the same thing as using the handlebars. We can change the position, and again, it might be that you have a specific place that you want it to be on the page, but otherwise you can just click and drag it around. We can recolor it using some of these. These are basically just like image filters, so it might be that we actually want an inverted X-ray type of effect, perhaps, or just a standard black and white effect. We can add adjustments in terms of its opacity. So one thing that we often do with our slides is to have a kind of background image that adds a bit of interest, which is kind of faded out a little bit like that. We can otherwise adjust the sort of brightness and the contrast if we need to kind of tweak the quality of the image. And then beneath that, we can add a shadow. This can help images sort of appear as if they're floating on the page somewhat, and you can change the angle of this, the distance, the blur radius, and kind of make that shadow more or less pronounced as you see fit. And you can obviously change the color of that too if you wanted a blue shadow for some reason. Let's just undo all of those things. We can also add a reflection as well, and again choose the opacity of this, and this can help create a slightly different effect if that's of interest to you as well. So that's how you add text and images and format them, and if you want to also animate them. Let's move on to the next video now and look at other types of objects we can embed into our slides.